After the devastating defeat in the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, Rome permanently retreated across the Rhine and the Danube in 16 AD. The Limes closed the gap between the two rivers. At the same time, the empire annexed a particularly fertile area of Germania. What purpose did the frontier fortifications fulfill? A Roman chronicle reports,
Emperor Hadrian had large tree trunks rammed deep into the ground and joined together to create a border with the land of the barbarians.
At the beginning of the 2nd century, the Romans fortified the northern border of their empire. This limes, as it was called, involved palisades, ditches and 900 watchtowers. It was designed to protect the empire from the Germanic tribes. The limes ran over 500 kilometers through the forests. After the Great Wall of China, it is the longest structure the world has seen. For the Germanic tribes, it was a clear sign. Here the power of Rome began. Hadrian's Wall in the north of England was built shortly after the limes. It is still an impressive piece of evidence of how Roman frontier fortifications dominated the landscape. They represent Hadrian's foreign policy set in stone. Rome had passed the climax of its power and was closing itself off behind its borders. The watchtowers formed the backbone of the frontier. They stood within sight of each other so that the soldiers were able to have an unbroken view of the border. They also cut a swathe through the forest so that they'd also be able to monitor the area in front of the limes. Up to 8 soldiers manned a limes tower. They were stationed at their posts for several weeks at a time, stored their provisions in the towers and baked their own bread. The most important task of the limes troops was to sound the alarm with horn signals in the event of an attack. During the night, they used torches to keep in touch with the neighboring towers and with smaller forts in the back country manned by mounted troops. It was a simple but effective early warning system. As a kind of ancient radar, the limes was an important element of Roman frontier defense against the Germanic tribes.
Of course, the Romans also stationed their troops on the frontier line. From there, they monitored the area in front of the border up to several kilometers away from the wall. And if something was brewing there, the troops were informed and were able to react. They then deployed out over the limes into the enemy territory and tried to restore peace.
And if a Germanic band did break through the limes, the guards would signal the alarm. Mounted intervention troops from further behind the limes would then intercept the invaders. If the Germanic tribes still managed to enter far into Roman territory and return fully laden with loot, the Roman warning system would once again notify the mounted troops. They would then bring the invaders to book when they tried to re-enter Germania. In the 3rd century, many of the old Germanic tribes disbanded. Small warlike bands slowly turned into new big tribes, like the Saxons, the Franks, the Alemanni, the Burgundians and the Goths. They did not just fight amongst each other. The military leaders of these large tribes soon also started challenging the Roman Empire. For a long time, historians believed the limes was overrun during a full-scale Germanic attack, but today they know it was quite different. In 260 AD, the Roman Emperor Valerian was captured by the Persians. This was the first catastrophe in a whole series of unfortunate events that shook the empire. All the frontier troops on the limes were withdrawn. Now, at the greatest crisis the empire had yet faced, they were needed elsewhere. A civil war had broken out around the emperor's throne, which now stood empty. At the Limes, a decision was made. In 260 AD, the border with Germania was abandoned. Rome withdrew to behind the Rhine and the Danube. The Alemanni entered the cleared back country behind the Limes. The empire closed itself off with a new frontier behind the rivers.